Alright, so let's solve some two-step equations. Now remember, when I solve an equation, my goal is to get the variable, or the letter, the x in this case, by itself. So I have to get rid of this times 4 and the plus 7. So now the order that I'm going to choose to get rid of them, generally speaking, I'm going to go in reverse order of operations. So in this case, I have a times 4 and a plus 7. So you think of your normal order of operations, multiplication comes first, and addition would come second. So I'm going to flip that, and I'm going to do the addition first. So I'm going to get rid of this addition by simply subtracting it. So it's get rid of the plus 7, I subtract 7. But remember, with an equation has to be equal. So whatever I do to one side, I have to do it to the other side as well. So if I, over here on this left side, if I take 7 and I subtract 7, those cancel out because 7 minus 7 is 0. Now over here on the other hand, 39 minus 7, that gives me 32. All right, so on this right side I have a 32, and on this left side I just have this 4x left over. So I'm left with 4x equals 32. Now this means 4 times some number equals 32. Now to get rid of this times 4, I'm going to use the opposite operation, and that is I'm going to use division. So I'm going to divide this side by 4, but remember I have to also divide this side by 4. So now 4 divided by 4 is simply 1, right? So I'm left with 1x, or I could just write it as x. And 32 divided by 4 is going to be 8. So I'm saying that x equals 8. Now the smart thing to do is when you get your answer, plug it back into the equation. So the original equation was 4x plus 7 equals 39. Well, if we're saying that x equals 8, let's do this. 4 times 8 plus 7 should equal 39. All right? Well, 4 times 8 is 32 plus 7. Well, 32 plus 7 is 39. So my left side equals my right side, so I know I did the problem right. All right, let's take another one. In this case, we have 3/4 times y equals, 3/4 times y plus 5 equals 20. Now, same thing, let's get rid of this plus 5 first. So to get rid of a plus 5, I have to use the inverse operation. That is, I have to subtract 5. So if I subtract 5 here, I have to subtract 5 here. Now, of course, 5 minus 5 leaves me with 0, and 20 minus 5 leaves me with 15. So I have 15 on this side, and I have 3/4 y on this side. So 3/4 times y equals 15. That is 3/4 times some number equals 15. Now, in order to get rid of this multiplication, this times 3/4, I'm going to divide both sides by 3/4. But remember, when we divide, we actually multiply by the reciprocal. So just a quick example over here. Let's say I want to do 3/4 divided by, let's say, 1/5. We can actually write that as 3/4 times 5/1. So in other words, dividing something by 1/5 is the same thing as multiplying it by 5/1. So in this case, if I have to divide both sides by 3/4, essentially I have to multiply both sides by 4/3. All right? Now these all cancel out because I can cross cancel these 4s and the 3s. They both become 1s. So I'm left with just a y over here. And then of course, 15 times 4/3, well that's going to be 15 over 1 times 4/3. I can cross simplify here. This 3 goes into itself once, and the 3 goes into 15 5 times. So 5 times 4 is 20 over 1, which of course equals 20. So y equals 20. All right, last example here. We have 29 equals 8 minus 3x. Now, a problem like this a lot of times freaks people out because they're used to, for the most part, we see the variables on the left side. But really, this equation is no different than any other equation. It just happens the variables on the right side. Now, if I wanted to, I could take this right side and bring it all over here, and then take the left side and bring it all over here. That is, I can rewrite this equation as 8 minus 3x equals 29, right? And I can solve it from there. However, let's solve it this one, because again, you're still going to do the same thing. My goal is still the same. I want to get this x, this variable, by itself. So I have to get rid of the 8 and the minus 3, or the negative 3. So first things first, let's get rid of this 8. So I'm going to subtract the 8, subtract 8. 8 minus 8 gives me 0, and 29 minus 8 gives me 21. So I'm left with 21 equals negative 3x. Now, I have a x times a negative 3, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of that negative 3 by dividing both sides by negative 3. Now, negative 3 divided by negative 3, of course, gives me 1, so I'm left with 1x, and 21 divided by negative 3 gives me negative 7. All right, and again, anytime you have an equation, what you should do is you should go ahead and take your answer, plug it back into the equation, and see if it works out. All right, so in this case, I'll just do it with this one here. 8 minus 3 times negative 7 equals 29. Well, so we can look at this right here. I can look at this as a negative 3. I mean, I can look at this a couple different ways, but I can look at this as a negative 3 times a negative 7 gives me a positive 21. So that's 8 plus 21 equals 29. That's true. But I'm going to take the same exact thing right here. I'm going to bring it down here just so you can see it a different way. Because some people might not look at this as a negative 3, even though it is a negative 3. But they just might think, well, okay, here's my 8. I'm going to bring down my minus symbol. 3 times negative 7 is negative 21. So I'm going to write negative 21 equals 29. Now, of course, I'm sure that you've seen this in your textbook or wherever, that when you have two signs right next to each other, they're separated by a parentheses. So 8 minus a negative 21, anytime we're subtracting a negative, that essentially becomes a positive. So this right here is just like this one that I did up here. All right? So there you go. That's solving two-step equations. Thanks for watching.